Hello. Welcome to Yoga with Leslie. Thank you so much for taking time and joining me to practice today. Today's practice is going to be a little bit slower than my usual fast food flows. We could even call it a slow food flow, but it's still going to be in that 20-25 minute sweet spot because I know a lot of us don't always have an hour to commit to our practice, but we do want to get on the mat and move some. So this practice is perfect if you're just having a really tough day and you want to ground yourself and you don't want to do a really high cardio or difficult or super challenging class. If you're working on your flexibility, who isn't, right? I have so many students who are like, I want to touch my toes. And so this is one of those classes that will help you gain more flexibility and awareness of how one day you can maybe touch your toes. And I promise you can touch your toes right now if you bend your knees enough, right? But I know what they mean by that. And it's a nice practice for the end of the day. You had a tough day at work or with your kids and you just want some self-care time. This one's for you. All right, so let's find our way down to our mats. And we're gonna start in a comfortable seat. Bringing your hands to your knees, closing your eyes, and just finding our breath, starting super slow. And settling down, especially if it's the end of a long day. So notice the quality of the inhale and the exhale. And see if you can begin to slow down your breath. Relax your shoulders. Soften your jaw. And relax the space around and behind the eyes. And stay with your breath for another 5 rounds or so. Continuing to soften anywhere that you're holding on to tension, where you're still feeling a little tight or sore. And you might have to shift your body to find that softness, that suppleness. Last breath. Take a deep inhale through the nose. Audible sigh. Through the mouth. Beautiful. Opening your eyes here. Inhale, sweeping your arms up. Interlacing your fingers at the top and then pushing your palms up to the sky. Inhale, lifting here. See if you can push your chest forward and up. And then exhale, keeping and pushing your hands away from you until your palms are about heart level and they're peeling away. So you're finding more length and protracting your shoulder blades here. You might even tilt the tailbone slightly here, so it's like you're scooping and your low back curves. A little slow movement. And then inhale as you straighten the spine, arms come back up. Maybe you push and lift the chest, a little back bend here. Exhale, round the spine. Maybe this time your chin tucks into your chest. And then moving through this 3 more times. If you'd like, your gaze follows your hands. Last round as you inhale, take a deep breath. And exhale it all out. Beautiful. Releasing your hands down to your knees, shoulder rolls here. Don't go too quick. Really try to work the rotation here. So we're squeezing the shoulders toward the ears, back, down and around, and switch direction. Protracting, retracting, moving the shoulder heads. All right. See, Bubba. Inhale, setting your arms back up. This time interlacing your hands behind your head. And then tilting the right elbow down to the ground. So the left elbow draws up, right elbow draws down. And if you're mirroring me, that's okay. We're going to do both sides. We've only got two. So just remember which side you're doing. And we're trying to lengthen the side body here. So rooting that left hip bone, the left sit bone, and then trying to reach and grow through that left side. And then if you'd like, slowly taking that left elbow to the right and taking your gaze down to the ground with a slight tug on the head. Very gentle, but taking it so you can feel a stretch in the cervical spine and the neck muscles, maybe even down to the traps. One more breath. Beautiful. Inhale, coming back up. Switching sides as you exhale, left elbow reaches down to the ground, right elbow peels up. And if your right sit bone is starting to lift, try to root. Equanimity in the sit bones. So you could easily tilt, right? But then we lose that stretch. So reconnect with the mat, reconnect with the earth. And then if you'd like, right elbow pulls in towards the left as you gaze down and tug gently on the neck for several breaths. My neck is really tender right now, so that feels extra yummy. Inhale, coming up, letting your head rest in your hand as you peel your elbows away from each other. And then exhale, release. Shoulder rolls here. You can continue moving like this, or even bring your hands to your shoulders and start drawing big circles with your elbows. So you choose which one feels better for you right now, right? Switch direction. Sometimes it's having your arms relaxed, and sometimes it's taking your hands to your shoulders. Sometimes it's even going out wide, big circles. You know? Okay. Taking your feet this time together, knees pull in. Inhale, send your right arm up. As you exhale, twist over so the right hand drops behind you. I'm going to angle myself slightly so you can see here. I'm taking my left arm, wrapping it around my knees. Root the tailbone here as you inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, belly twist. Inhale, lengthen and root. Exhale. One more breath. Maybe you gaze over the right shoulder. And then unwind, bringing your gaze toward your knees, taking the right arm around the left and dropping your forehead down to meet the knees. Switching sides, this time the right arm wraps around the knees, left arm reaches up on the inhale, and on your exhale, twisting the torso to the side as your hand comes down to the ground. And it's nice when your hand is down here because it can actually slightly push into the ground to find and create that lift on your inhale. Soften your shoulders, soften your jaw. One more breath. Exhale, unwind. Give yourself a hug, dropping your forehead to your knees. Okay. Coming to your mat, this time your feet are going to be hip distance apart, or maybe just a little bit bigger. Right hand comes behind you. Fingertips can either be pointing towards the edge of your mat, or fingertips can be pointing towards your hips. Just feel it out, and we're going to go back and forth a few rounds so you can see which one actually feels better. And you might go somewhere in between, okay? I like to have my fingertips more angling out. And then inhale as you lift the hips, reach that left arm up overhead. So it's a little back bend, reverse tabletop, wild thing kind of movement here. Exhale, down, switching sides. Left hand down to the ground. Try to match what you did on the right side. And then push that left hand down, root the feet, lift the hips. As you inhale, open up here. Exhale, lower. Let's do two more on each side, switching. And over time, you start to pivot that hand so the fingertips start to point not only out to the side, but maybe towards the space behind you. As we work a little bit more mobility and flexibility in our wrists and forearms. Last one. Exhale. Lowering down to the ground. This time taking that left leg out long, right foot draws in, Janu Shirshasana. Inhale, sending your arms up, super tall, grow long here. Exhale, hinge from the hips. See that? I'm hinging from the hips. I'm not forward folding to grab my foot here. I'm just doing a little bit of hinge in the hips. And I immediately feel a stretch in the back of my leg. If you don't feel a stretch, try flexing or pointing the toes and seeing if that activates the leg, the back body for you. Okay, you can bring your hands down to the ground. I have a straight spine here. I'm just hinging from the hips, hinging from the hips. And you'll start to feel the stretch start to deepen, start to heat up a little bit more. So like I said, if you want to touch your toes, by all means, all you have to do is sit back up, right? Bend the knee a lot. And then inhale, lengthen, hinge from the hips, right? Belly and thighs are now touching. Reach for the foot. Look at that. I found my foot. I can touch my toes. You're like, Leslie, that's cheating. Okay, it is cheating. But what happens if you start to push that heel away from you so it's dragging into your mat, keeping the belly and thighs connected, and your head and neck will start to lower, and eventually you'll feel a stretch in the back body, and maybe even in the back of the leg, and that's where we stop. And that's where we explore. So it's going to be different for everybody. And to explore here, maybe we lift the chest up slightly and then lower it back down. Maybe we bring the torso to the left and to the right, like we're kelp in the ocean. Just playing with it. And over time, we're going to be here another 15 seconds or so. You can keep pushing the heel away from you. And you'll notice my leg is starting to straighten. I'm keeping my belly and thighs connected. And I'm still exploring. This time I'm taking my right hand, crossing it over. It's like I'm threading it through and reaching for the pinky edge side of my foot. Adding a twist into this, right? But every day is different. Every body is different. And then inhale, rise. Extend both legs out long. And just shake for a moment. Close your eyes here. Take a moment to examine. Do one of your legs feel longer than the other, softer than the other? They do for me. My left leg right now feels much softer than the right. And it actually feels like it's a little longer, a little lighter. Okay, before we do the next side, we're going to do a few more of those wild things. This time we're going to go into reverse tabletop beforehand. So you can have your fingertips pointing in or out. It's up to you. Lift the hips. Reverse tabletop. Start to bring that right foot in slightly. So the heel's a little bit closer to your sit bone, your booty. And then start to draw the knee closer down to the ground. So you're going to find a stretch in the front of the thigh. Use your breath. And don't push yourself to the extreme. Don't worry about getting that foot or the knee all the way down to the ground. It's not necessary. And maybe you start to shift the weight forward and backwards. Beautiful. Switching sides. If you need to rest your sit bones and your wrists for a little bit, go ahead. Otherwise, switch feet. Right foot goes out in front. The left foot goes back, and then you start to shift the weight forwards and backwards. It's a nice stretch in that front thigh. So if you ever want to go into deep back bends, this is a super important area to stretch out. Oftentimes we think it's all about, right, the back body, finding flexibility in the back body, but in a back bend, you're actually contracting the back body and you're opening up the front line. So your chest, your abs, and your thighs need to be super open to go into those deep back bends. And we all have different bodies, different limitations. Come back down to a seat. Wrist circles here. My wrists are always getting a little tired. Shake, shake, shake. All right, we're going to do Janu Shirshasana on the other side. This time that right leg is going to be out in front of you. The left foot draws in. So it's almost like tree pose. The sole of my foot is pushing into the trunk of my leg. My knee is externally open. Inhale, lift the heart. Maybe your hands move to your ribcage. Exhale from the hips. So I'm not hunching forward. This is not hunchasana. We're going to move with a hinge in the hips. Heart draws forward, and that's it. That's where I can go before my leg starts screaming. I'm flexing my foot here. You can also point. Try to have an active foot, whatever you decide to do. But you want to touch your foot. Okay. Well, we'll do it on this side too then, right? So we're going to draw that foot down to the ground. Knee is really, really bent. Take the belly, hinge from the hips. Inhale, lengthen, hinge, and bring it in. So you might even have to bring it in a little bit more, right? Okay? Look at that. You can touch your foot. Flex the foot, grab onto the outer edges, and then slowly, over time, we're going to be here about a minute or so, remember? We're going to push our heel into the ground, keeping our belly and thigh connected. Let your head and neck soften, relax your shoulders, and use your breath to guide you. So the reason that we lose flexibility, it's one of those you use it or lose it things, right? And as kids, we're constantly playing outside in the grass with our friends and experimenting with our bodies, playing on the trampoline, doing cartwheels in the grass. And then we stop doing that as adults. We don't play anymore. And so we lose the mobility, the range of motion, the strength, the balance, the flexibility, all those things that came naturally to us as kids, we start to lose. And then by the time we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, we feel like we're just tight human beings who can barely move within a very specific range. Keep pushing that heel over time. So what's happening here is we're now using these muscles. We're telling our body, hey, wake up again. You know, our muscles have a certain length, and then you can explore, just like you explored on the other side. Maybe that left arm reaches for a little twist. Torso floats over the thigh of the leg. And if you did this video every single day for like a week or 2 weeks straight, I wouldn't be too surprised if you had huge gains in your leg flexibility and your back. Because you can see here, it is your back, right? Your back to touch the foot. You're not just finding flexibility in the hamstring and the calves and that little muscle behind the knee. That's my pesky area, right behind the knee. You also need to stretch out these low back muscles especially, because when we're sitting all day, we're not doing any core strength. We're not doing any flexibility. We're just like, ugh, how horrible is this? Does it look good? No, it's not. So what we do to counteract that are these forward folds where we're actively trying to safely stretch and open up these areas. So you can see if I hunch over, I can touch my toes, but I want to have a straight spine as much as I can. Okay. Inhale, slowly rolling up. So now we've done some of those quad stretches. We did a little bit of wrist warm up. Let's try that wild thing one more time. But this time we're going to try to get our fingers so they're not only pointing behind us, but maybe even towards the center of the mat. Okay? It's going to be pretty extreme. But I think you can do it. And once again, we might not do it on our first one. Maybe the first one, our fingertips are pointing towards the back of the mat or behind you. And then inhale, push the hips up, lift that arm. And then on the other side, see if you can bring your fingertips so they're pointing towards the center of your mat, just a little bit more. Every single time you inhale and lift, we're trying to rotate that hand down just a little bit more. So right here, my fingertips are towards the center. Push the hips up. Keep pushing the hips up, opening up my chest here. Maybe my other left hand can touch the ground. Lift the right hand off the ground, all the way to the other side. You're like, oh my God, Leslie, no way, not today. That might be possible. But like I said, keep practicing, and all is coming. So I could walk my feet in a little bit closer here to help me out. And you can continue doing one hand at a time. Left side, drop the hips. Right side, drop the hips. But if you have the flexibility, go ahead and do around the world. Okay? One more round on each side. Awesome. Have a seat. We're going to do a little bit of wrist circles, taking our hands, pushing the backs of the hands together and around. It's a lot on the wrists. And the other direction. Shake, shake, shake. Shake a little more. Okay. So now let's come to hands and knees for gate pose. Sitting ourselves up on our knees nice and tall, acting as though our knees are our feet here. Hands can come to hips, and then extending that left leg out long, and noticing if you can bring your toes so they're pointing forward towards the edge of your mat. So I can feel this really nice and deep in my hip flexors. Inhale, send that right arm up high. Exhale as you lean over to the left. So our knee is our root, and we are really, really rooting it into the ground. We're not allowing it to lift. It's not light. It is strong and steady. And our right hand is the opposite. It's lifting and pulling away. We're creating more length from that knee to that fingertip, all the way along that right chain side of our body. And then exhale, bringing yourself back up, tucking the back foot if it's not already. And then taking that right arm up once again, twisting slightly here. The torso will reach over that left leg, that long leg. And if you can, take the left hand and start to lean back to find that right foot. A little back bend here. It's a camel gait variation. Think about Aladdin. One more breath. Exhale. Slowly lower. Hands come down to the ground. And we're going to do a version of frog and splits, middle splits here. So maybe that left foot can go a little bit further away from the midline. Checking out that knee, seeing if you can bring the foot right behind the knee. So I was resting too much on like my actual knee plate. I wanted to come to the side more so it doesn't hurt as much. You can also bring a blanket or something nice and cushiony. Come down to your forearms if it feels okay. If not, bring some books or something with some height, an Amazon box. And then we'll start to explore here, shifting your weight forwards and backwards. Maybe a slight tuck or tilt of the tailbone. And just seeing how this feels along your body. Beautiful. Soften the shoulders, soften the jaw. And then walking yourself back up, pivoting that foot. So the foot is now going to be in the front of your body when you come all the way down to a seat. Yes. So you can work on your forward fold version of your choice here. I'm going to keep my right knee bent, but if you wanted to go for a wide angle seated forward fold, you can. I find it's nice to just focus on one side of the body at a time though for me. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, hinge from the hips. We're going forward. Chest is reaching forward and down to the ground. So using our breath, maybe you come down to your forearms. If this feels too deep in your legs, by all means, walk the angle in. It does not have to be all the way out here. It can be more like a 90-degree angle. And then you can play with pointing and flexing the foot here. And maybe you do that for a few breaths. Maybe you come up, extend both legs to the same angle. Once again, hinge from the hips. And so I haven't done much in my right thigh, right? My right hip, so I can feel it's a lot tighter. Walk yourself back up. We're going to switch sides, feet together, lifting up onto your knees. This time, the left knee is your root. The right leg is one of your branches, and it grows out long. Inhale, left arm reaches up. Exhale, leaning over to your right. I absolutely love side body stretches. I know when I first started yoga, it felt very awkward. Like I barely could feel anything along the side chain. And the more I practice, you become aware of all these different muscles, tiny muscles. And now it feels absolutely lovely. I crave side body stretching. Especially the more that I can root that knee, root the foundation of my body, the more I can grow. And then tuck the back foot. Left arm remains reaching up, so we're still having length from the knee to the fingertips. The right hand and the torso twist, 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 until maybe you can drop it. So pushing the hips forward. Right hand might find that ankle. It feels like it's really far away sometimes. Whoop, but there it is. And then once again, push the hips forward. Opening up the chest. Lengthening that front body. Exhale, slowly lifting yourself back up. Windmilling your hands down to the ground for that half middle splits, half frog. So you can stay here and start to shift your weight forward and backwards. The deeper that you can bring your body to the ground, the more that you will feel this. So make sure that you're in frog and that that left foot is behind the knee, so we're not pivoting it in. In frog, it tries to stay right there. And tuck and tilt the tailbone, shift forward, back. Really slow movements. You're not rushing through this. Stay with your breath. Relax the neck. And then walk your hands back under the shoulders, pushing yourself up. Now we start to pivot the foot so we can sit all the way back and down. So if you know that when you come into a forward fold that this is going to be too extreme of an angle, 180 degrees in the legs is not in your calling today. You're more like the 90-degree angle. That's good. Right angles are great. Inhale. Lift the chest. Exhale. Hinge from the hips. Forward fold. So I like to take a few breaths here before starting to explore. And once again, exploring can either be pointing or flexing the foot. It can be moving the torso like a wave in the ocean, just floating gingerly off the ground. It could be the tilt and the tuck of the tailbone. And then after a few breaths, I take both legs out long. Maybe you want to join me and see where I can go now that I've done both sides, hinging from those hips. And we're going to do this is called a pancake. So if you can, try to keep your hands off the ground. You might have to have your hands on your thighs or your shins. And if you really want to play with strength building here, take your hands and bring them behind your back, low back, or even go for, what's this called? It's not eagle arms, cow face arms. There we go. I can't go as deep there though, so I'm not going to do that. That feels too scary for my hamstrings. And it usually does. For others, it doesn't. We're all built differently. So the goal is to eventually get the belly and the chest and the forehead on the ground, but having control on the way down. So we're not just plopping down to the earth, because that could cause injuries. We want to be slow and methodical. Someone tell me how to spell that word in the comments. Methodical. Why it up? By all means. That's right. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should watch Tombstone. I have no idea if I'm quoting it, but I feel like I'm Val Kilmer right now, so I'm going to go with it. Yeah, I thought so. All right, bringing your feet in. Shake, shake, shake. Okay. Once again, starting how we begin in a comfortable seat. Rooting your sit bones. Closing your eyes here. Softening the shoulders, softening the jaw, relaxing the space around and behind your eyes and your heart. Taking a moment to notice how you feel. Do you feel lighter than when you began? Do you feel more grounded? How's your nervous system? How's your breath? These are questions we want to ask ourselves throughout the day, and especially while we're moving. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Namaste.
If you loved the video, show me some love by liking, commenting, and sharing.